The Chicago Bulls are now the only team in the NBA that has not acquired a player either via a trade or the buyout market. And they just got passed and they're back down to the 11th seed after being passed by the Raptors and the Wizards. Bulls face Orlando Magic today, and many hope that they can start turning things around. I'm not too hopeful, but we're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central. I'm the host here, Haize. You guys can follow me right off the top at CEO Haize. And the Chicago Bulls faced the Orlando Magic today, and the Orlando Magic are a team that rank in 27th in offense, 17th in defense, they're 19th in rebounding, and they have a total of 23 wins on the NBA season. But we shouldn't be too confident about the Bulls' ability to beat this team. This is an Orlando Magic team that has played us tough, dating back to since we've really made that Wendell Carter trade. And this is really a game that most Bulls fans always look at how we face the Orlando Magic and say, hey, you remember? Do you remember? It kind of just brings everything home, like around the trade and, just how bad the Bulls are if they do lose this game. Now, the Bulls have beat the Orlando Magic. They've done so playing a team game of basketball, and Nikola Vucevic has looked okay in some of those games. Now, as we know, Wendell Carter, when he plays the Chicago Bulls now, he turns into an all-star player, and so we'll have to see what that looks like and how the Chicago Bulls kind of stand up. Now, the Bulls have 2 losses in a row after having big leads that really just bad second halves of games. So we'll see if this Bulls team comes in, plays with a little bit more pride. If they're tired of losing, they're back down now to 4 games under 500 after being 1 game below 500 before the Memphis Grizzlies game, and then they lost 3 games in a row. The Bulls have to find a way to stop the bleeding if they want to try to even make the play-in this season. Now, with most Bulls fans, they're wondering, well, even if we do make the play-in, what's the point? We're going to be a first-round exit at best, and then at worst, we can be eliminated in the play-in tournament. And so, looking at this game today, the Bulls have to come in, and as we've been saying, they have to actually play like they give a damn. And that's been the biggest thing with this Bulls team, and even something that the players have pointed to. This team does not play like they understand the urgency that they're in right now in their NBA season. The Bulls season has gotten away from them. It's not that can they stop it from getting away from them. At this point, we have to realize that the season has gotten away from the Chicago Bulls. They failed by every estimation. They failed by even their own preseason predictions and desires for this team, much less the expectations that the fans had of this team. And now we have the news surrounding that the Bulls may be shutting down Lonzo Ball officially for the rest of the season during the All-Star break. Again, something that AK could have just did and been more transparent about in his press conference after the trade deadline. But regardless of all that, this is where this Bulls team currently sits. We know what the Bulls have to do when they find success and when they can beat other teams. That's simple, right? They play defense for a full 4 quarters. They shoot the ball effectively. They pass the ball and mitigate the turnovers. And that's the things that the Bulls have not been doing that have definitely been hurting them. We have a big 3, medium 3, the medium 3 that we have that really, Vooch has been the most consistent out of those players. DeMar DeRozan has had a stretch of just terrible games since his return from injury. I think he had like 1 game that he looked pretty decent in his return, but then since then it's kind of just been up and down. Zach LaVine always forgets to play basketball, he forgets how to play basketball in the fourth quarter of games. It just hurt the Chicago Bulls extremely. And so when you have players, when your core is built around that and they don't really play consistently, it leaves a lot to be desired for this team. And we'll see, if they can fix it tonight. And so, a lot of Bulls fans, and I said it at the opening of the show, the Bulls are now officially the only team to not either acquire a player during a trade or via the buyout market. And it's evident for a team that obviously needs some help. And the way that I look at it is this. I'm going to present this question to you guys. I think Arturas is just letting this Bulls team struggle so that the fans can see when heads start rolling, it really is just, at least I hope, right? Because we, as Bulls fans, we know, and hopefully AK, as the person who leads this Bulls team and has put this team together, realizes this team ain't it. And so, I really do think we'll make it a buyout, a signing at some point, but in not going after trades and not wanting to give up assets, in which AK quoted, I hope that meant that, hey, heads may have to roll and we don't want to give up any assets at the trade deadline because we may need those assets in the summer to make even bigger moves than what were available to us at the trade deadline. So, hopefully, because at the end of the day, it's this: I've never called, and I'm not going to call for a full and total rebuild of this team. But you do have to make changes to the team. You gotta actually change the roster. You can't keep holding on to players or falling in love with your own players like AK has seemingly done. Something has to give. And I know a lot of Bulls fans, talk about DeMar and Vooch and Zach. I'm at this point now where I think one of those three players has to be gone to get the best package back. And so Vooch is a free agent. Now, it's very possible that the Bulls do work a sign and trade, even if he does leave via free agency. But those assets you get back in those type of moves aren't anything major. And so when you look at it, it's going to almost have to be either Zach or DeMar. And several of the bench players as well. The Bulls hold Alex Caruso in this super high regard. Well, guess what? You got to go and see what you're getting for him, because yes, I love Alex Caruso. His worth is always going to be better for a contending team, and the Bulls are not that. And we got to see what this team does. And I think that if this Bulls team hopes in having any chance in regaining the faith of the fan base, you have to drastically improve this team. And just waiting on Lonzo Ball to come back from injury ain't going to do it anymore. Like, that's not going to do it. Had he came back this season, been able to be fully healthy, and maybe even on the back end of the season, maybe you could have got away with selling that dream to us. At this point, the dream of Lonzo Ball ain't going to be the one that fixes it. And I get it. I love Lonzo Ball. I've always said this. Lonzo Ball is literally the perfect point guard to be next to Zach LaVine, as long as he's going to be the starting shooting guard on your team. But with that being said, we cannot bet on the health of Lonzo Ball anymore. We can't wait around for it. We've now been waiting for it for a season and a half, basically, especially if we finish this season without seeing him get onto the court. It's a season and a half. And we basically paid Lonzo Ball for 26, 27 games at this point. And you can't sell us on that dream anymore. We have to see some valid improvements. Like, yeah, we all want to see Lonzo Ball back. We all know what he brings defensively. We all know what he brings in transitions. We want to see Billy Donovan unlock him in the half-court offense more, where he's not just catching and shooting. We want to see those things. But the fact of the matter is, a player that has been out of basketball for over a year, it's going to take some time for them to get back in rhythm. That's just what it is. So we have to have improvements other than bringing Lonzo Ball back. The dream of Lonzo Ball cannot save this team anymore. And even the Bills fans that are hoping for that, well, if you just bring Lonzo back, we're back to we were number one team in the East. Listen, that team was flawed then. That team was number one team in the East after not facing that many of the top teams in the NBA and being 500 against those teams in the times that they did play them. So, it leaves a lot to be desired for this team. And that hope of, at least for me, I'm speaking for me, the hope of Lonzo Ball doesn't just fix what's going on with the Chicago Bulls team. It helps, but it doesn't just fix it. And then even if Lonzo Ball is fully healthy, how long is it going to take him to get back in rhythm is some of the biggest questions surrounding this team. So we need to see something. This same team cannot come back. And if AK tries to sell us on that, that's when we need to go into next season with even more frustration than what we have currently right now. So we'll see. I don't want to get into too much. We'll talk about that during the offseason. But one of the things that I do want to talk about before we go is the second half of games for the Chicago Bulls. We've now seen it several games, especially in this recent 3-game losing streak. The Bulls do not play good second half basketball. They don't. And most of the teams that they play against actually know if they punch the Bulls in the damn mouth, the Bulls are going to buckle. And when you look at the things over the Bulls, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, yes, the Bulls are the last team in the NBA as far as three-point attempts per game. We sit right now at 26 3-point attempts per game. We have a little bit, I think we're now about 27. We have 3 fewer than the next team above us. And the thing with that is that AK talked about our efficiency from 3, right? And the fact of the matter is we're not shooting efficiently anymore. It's funny that he said that right now we are 15th in average at 36% on 3-point shots. Now, last year, we were better. I think we were towards the top of the league in 3-point percentage, even though we were lower in attempts. And the fact of the matter is we don't play a modern game in the NBA. Now, when you look at the Bulls as well, if you're not going to be a team that's shooting the number of threes that the league has now moved to, you need to be efficient in a few different areas. Your overall field goal percentage needs to be in the top 10 to above that. Our turnover percentage needs to be efficient. We need to just be playing efficient offense and protecting the ball. We're not doing that. Right now, the Chicago Bulls are 12th in field goal percentage at 55.1%. Our turnover percentage is also 11th in the league at 13.9, and our free throw rate is 20.9. That is good enough for 18th in the league And guess what? If we're going to make up for the deficit that we are naturally going to have by not taking more three-point shots, we need to be better than pedestrian in those areas. And the fact of the matter is, we are just a middle-of-the-pack team. We don't play a modern-style NBA offense, and then even with that, we are not efficient in the offense that we run. Those two things that are going to drastically hurt your team in the modern NBA, and so things need to change. The scheme and the system also needs to change and adapt. Now, again, I talked about it last game. The game against the Cavs, if the Bulls just, even with the terrible percentage they were hitting the three-point shot at, took more threes to match the Cleveland Cavaliers' number of three-point attempts, we win that game. That's how important three-point shooting now has become in the NBA. And if you're a team that doesn't shoot volume threes and then you're not playing efficiently to elite in the other areas of the game, it's going to make you easy to beat. And then the turnovers absolutely kill the Chicago Bulls every single night. The Bulls have to be more efficient in what they do good. If you're not going to shoot three-pointers, everything else has to be damn near elite, and we're not seeing that from this team. And we have players on this team that are completely passive at times that also hurt us. Now, Patrick Williams per percentage is our best three-point shooter. We do need to utilize that. Zach LaVine is the only three-point shooter that we have in volume, especially off catch and shoot, just in general. We don't run those things for him. Nikola Vucevic is a solid isolation player, but we run him on this post-ups that aren't necessarily the most efficient basketball either. At the end of the day, it's the Bulls just don't play a good brand of basketball. And so with that being said, it's not just the players, it's also the scheme. And we are now locked in to a secret extension for a coach who has not run a modern NBA offense, even after showing flashes of that in the preseason and to start the season. Something has to give with the Chicago Bulls team, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be the coach. We know this ownership. Once Billy Donovan got locked into that extension, it all but sealed the deal that he is going to be our coach for the considerable future. I see you guys. I hear you. I feel you on the ones that are in the comments saying the coaches that are available that could potentially be better for this team. I hear that, and I'm sure the front office hears that. But unfortunately, they have hitched their wagon to this coach, and it kind of is what it is. No matter what we realize, now, and people still saying it's not too late to move on from Billy Donovan. Unfortunately, if you know this franchise, it is, right? It just is. Now, there are absolutely other franchises that aren't afraid to spend, that would see the struggles of this team and say, listen, I know we just gave him an extension, but this ain't working out. Let's go ahead and do something different. That's not the Chicago Bulls ownership, right? And so the Bulls right now sit in such a place that even if the improvements that this team could make, if they did want to try to salvage this version of the roster and just make improvements and change the coach, it's not coming. This Bulls team may want to change the roster, but it seems like we have a front office that has fallen in love with their own players that they built, not realizing that this version of the team just ain't it, and it ain't going to be it either. So where we sit right now is such a weird place for Bulls fans because we see it. And I'm sure the front office sees, and I'm sure ownership sees it to a degree, but they don't give a damn. And that's one of the biggest slaps in the face as well. And I'm not one to sit up here and always blame and bitch about ownership, but we do have an ownership group that sees the Chicago Bulls are going to be and have been top 5 in ticket sales, and they're gonna look at that and say, hey, we're doing enough. It sucks to have an ownership group that looks at the bottom line more than they look at the product on the court. We have an ownership group that doesn't care about winning basketball. They care about how much money they're making. And as much as we say Jerry Reinsdorf, Michael Reinsdorf seems like he's going to be a chip off the block and be just like his old man. And that makes me worried about the future for the Chicago Bulls. And I know a lot of guys in the comments say, sell the team, sell the team. The Reinsdorfs are never selling this team as long as it's profitable. And so, you know me, I'm not to shit on anybody's thoughts and ideas, but you guys know me. I try to be a realist, and I try to put my energy in things that are realistic. And the fact of the matter is, 2 things that are not realistic for this team. One is definitely the Reinsdorf selling the team. That's not happening. Not in our lifetime, not in our children's lifetime. It's probably not happening. Now, and then moving on from head coach Billy Donovan, unfortunately, it's just probably not happening, people. And so with that said, we sit in this place right now, And I know the people that have the mindset of, hey, we need to blow it up. But like I said before on a couple of episodes ago, I don't even necessarily have the faith even in blowing it up. And people say like, hey, at least I'd rather see a bunch of rookies lose. But the thing is, Billy Donovan would then be the ones developing those players. There's been nothing that I've seen from Billy Donovan. And then we'd be wasting 3 years of rookies and then probably move on from some of them. And we don't have the right head coaching or the coaching system in general to develop those players. We sit in a terrible place, and it's going to be a rough next couple of years unless AK goes into this offseason and does some and works some magic. Gets really, you talked about you were on the phones for a week. We don't see the results of that. We need to see something this weekend. AK, at least I hope, and I'm putting my hope, and again, in AK evaluating and saying that we need to evaluate this roster is doing so and saying that, hey, we're trying to now see who we want to hold on to because it may be some wholesale changes for the Chicago Bulls team in this offseason. And if it does come, the players earn that. The coaches earn that. Hell, even AK, they earn that by this team they put together. There are some talented pieces on this team. We have way too much talent to be currently where we are. But here we are, and to make some and to improve and not be in this sports purgatory that we're in for the foreseeable future, it's going to have to take AK and Eversley to make some big changes to this team. And we'll see. We'll see. And hopefully with maybe a better cast of players that are more modern and fit together a little bit better, maybe we see a more modern NBA offense. But until we see those things, it's going to be rough times here for Bulls Nation. But that is it for me for today. Make sure you're following the show at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullscentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text and or voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related because of you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.